Hello, and welcome to this podcast episode of the Hidden Heroes of Tech. This is the show where we shine a light on the brains behind all the successes we see across industries. It takes more than text to get a product in front of a consumer. People from sales, go to market, strategy, marketing, finance, operations, and of course the techs. We talk with those we don't know much about and hope to learn some nuggets of wisdom. Our sponsor for today's episode is the revenuedoc.com. Hi, I'm Mickey Barat and I'm your host for today's show. Well, while we wait for our guest to ring the doorbell to enter the studio, let me tell you more about him. It's a great person called Sean Maloney. So, with a bachelor's degree in French and Management Studies from the University of Leeds, Sean Maloney embarked on a successful career in sales. His journey began at EMC Corporation, where he consistently exceeded sales targets and earned prestigious awards. Transitioning to Symantec, Sean continued his track record of success, driving revenue growth and foregoing strategic partnerships. As head of enterprise sales at KCOM, he led transformative initiatives elevating the sales division's performance. Today, Sean is the founder and CEO of Maloney Green Associates Limited, where he provides international sales training and leadership coaching with a focus on innovation and practical experience. Sean helps organizations achieve sustainable success in sales and negotiation. In addition to his professional achievements, Sean is committed to giving back to the community through his volunteer work and mentorship. As a fellow of the Institute of Sales Management, he continues to contribute to the field of excellence. So now I'm just waiting for Sean to enter ring the doorbell to the studio to get in. Oh, there he is. One second. Let me bring him in. Oh, hello, Sean. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Mickey. Nice to see you again.
I'm glad to have you here. It's a real honor to have you here. And, I've known you for a long time and I'm just so absolutely excited to have you here. So, Sean, I've just given you an introduction. Is there anything I've missed or you want to sort of shout out before we get into the show?
Not at all. I was, very, very proud and almost blushing there.
Did you recognize yourself?
Not at all. I still remember our first meeting, Mickey, and friendships actually transcend starts, don't they?
Yeah, it's an interesting point that because when we started, I think you were a little bit frosty towards me, and I thought, "Oh my God, who's this chap here?" I remember that whole situation.
I do, and what we've developed, and it's a friendship going back a number of years, Mickey. And I've just as you've looked at my career, I've looked at your career, and I see that the fantastic work you've done. And what particularly like about this is you've done it in direct sales, indirect sales, in strategy, and so on with great corporations. Obviously, a great corporation now, AWS, but also the work you did at Oracle was unbelievable. And when you were able to sell effectively against freeware, you've got to be pretty good for that. So I really take my hat off to you as well.
Oh, thanks, Sean. But I love everything you said about me. But today's about you, Sean. So let's not talk about me today. I love talking about me. I don't want to talk about me. I made a real intention to Mickey. Don't talk about yourself. So, Sean, today's topic is something
I'm
called
suitably chastised. Okay.
So today's topic, Sean, is the Goodwill principle, balancing life's ledger when working in sales. Now, you've had a very illustrious career, as we just seen from your bio, spanning I don't know how many years. You can maybe expand on that. Just don't go into the details because we want to go to the next part of the show in a moment. But where are you coming from with this topic? Because it was something that you were passionate about when we talked about this show and doing this show. Yeah.
I've been very, very lucky in my career. It's been a good career. I've also had a lot of luck as well. Worked for some good people, and I look back. My career almost ended before it started. My first company wasn't going well in sales, and I had a manager called Ray Newall that contributed a lot to me, over and above one would expect for a manager to do. And I wasn't overnight success, but he worked with me. He coached me, he put a lot into me, and then it all clicked. And I believe that I paid him back with the business I got for him, but he contributed first. And what that said to me is, is make sure you contribute. If you want anything out of life and in sales, contribute first. And from a selling perspective, is the bad old days of selling when it was all about me, when it was combative and competitive. Thank goodness those days have gone. Yeah, it really is now. It's customers see if you're there for the commission. But one great way for customers to differentiate themselves is to be really interested in the customer and have their best interests at heart. And if you do that,
Yeah.
people
Go
will
ahead.
come back for me time after time after time.
Okay, so hold that thought because we're now getting a little bit into the detail of this topic, and I want to save it for a moment. So before we dive into the topic, I think it's important. There's a lot of people in this audience who are not really going to know who you are, but let's start with Sean Maloney because I remember the day we first met, and it was that presentation to win I think it was a Veritas contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, and oh my word, if only I knew some certain things about you, maybe we would have been friends before we went into that room. And I think it's all about building rapport. So in an effort to build rapport for the audience, let's talk a little bit about you. So I've got a couple of questions for you, Sean, about you personally. Is it okay if I ask you those
Of
questions?
course, of course.
Okay. Now this might sound silly, but it's very insightful. What did you have for breakfast today?
uh, that's seen the question in the past tense, Mickey. I'm yet to have breakfast. Unfortunately, I often skip breakfast and
You
get
do?
straight on, and then suddenly the day's gone and I'm ready for my dinner. So
Okay, well, let's change the question. What would you love to have for breakfast, or what is your ideal breakfast?
for me, I do like the old English fry up, I must confess. When I'm on holiday, I like the English breakfast, the bacon, the egg, the beans, and so on. That is my favourite. But if you want to live, you can't have that every day. So
And I know
that's a
you're
special
from
occasion.
so I know you're from Yorkshire, up in Sheffield, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So do you have like Yorkshire pudding for breakfast?
No, my wife loves to make those, and she does a good job. But she insists we have them on Sunday, with Sunday lunch. But I'm not a big Sunday lunch fan. I'm a sort of steak and chips guy myself.
Okay. That's very insightful. I'm not going to tell you what it says about you, but very insightful. Okay. Next question. How are you doing, Sean, for real? Because I always ask this question because, I want this to be an opportunity to be authentic with our audience. So how are you feeling today and, what's going on in your life? Not, you don't have to tell me what's going on in your life, but how are the things in your life making you feel today?
It's fine. If I've got a busy day, which I like, and today has been working with customer. I was out yesterday, and what really we go back to the early point about contributing early. A guy that was an up and coming sales guy at Veritas that I've kept in touch with, and we keep in touch. And what I liked is in this era of contributing, he's think about a career change and wanted a bit of advice. Yeah, so I like the fact that he came to me for advice and I was able to offer some. So we've got a session on Friday where we can hopefully help him map out the next stage of his career, just like Ray Newall helped me map out my career. So it's payback time.
All right. And you feel fulfilled by that today? Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Hopefully, you probably feel that my energy level went up when I was talking about that.
Yeah. And you can see it, which is great about these video podcasts. It's not just the audio. So if you're listening on audio, try and jump over to the YouTube channel and watch the video because he's such a handsome chap, is Sean. There you go. Next question. If you had a choice between two superpowers, being invisible or flying, which would you choose and why?
I think it would be invisible
Oh,
because,
really?
yeah, it's one of the reasons for that. I think people will have machines, little personal machines that help them to fly anyway in the near future. But being invisible and knowing what people really say about you and being there when you're not there is a good way to find out. And again, useful for relationships. Get a bit of feedback there. If I'd have been invisible the first time we met, I might have picked up on one or two things that I could have done better.
That's interesting. You're not the first person on this podcast to use that as an answer. Slightly different take on it, but almost the same thing.
Yeah.
I'd like to be a fly on the wall to see what people
Yeah.
are saying so I can change the world. So that's interesting. Could be a dangerous superpower, that. Okay, next question. Now, this next question is an interesting one because, when you go to interviews in places like McKinsey or Baines, they always throw a really interesting question out, and it's all designed to see how you think and operate. And you've not seen this question yet. And this next question is going to be interesting to see how Sean Maloney operates. So here we go. Sean, design a spice rack for the blind and describe it.
Okay, that's a good one. Is a wall. I would say it's a wall supported shelf that's at a good height that would allow people to put spices on there and take them on and back there as well. So for the people that cannot see, it is in front of you. You can feel the spices there. You have them in order so you know what they are. So it's in your kitchen, and that's how we design one for people who can't see.
So how would I know the difference between chili, salt, pepper, if I'm blind on the spice rack?
You'd have them in order. So we would train you on the order.
So
Great
you're
question.
getting it.
Great follow-up question.
So you're going back to your roots. Let's train them.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. That's good. Okay, that's great.
And do it alphabetically.
You have to train them
From
to
left to
read.
right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. Let's switch gears now to the topic of today. And we talked about the Goodwill principle. And one of the things that, in preparing for the show, you talked about was acts of kindness and support. So, what does this actually mean, and how do people show that, or if they're trying to follow this idea of the Goodwill principle?
Okay. For me, a leader, whether it be a sales leader or a leader of a team or whatever, is your people are your customers, but also you have responsibility for other people as well. And you have to be aware of everybody there, and your job as a leader is to lead them. And what I'm seeing in the industry is something that, and speak to that person today, he agrees with. I see one or two things that I really don't like in where some people are being led. Is a lot of people. There's a lot of tension out there, a lot of pressure out there. For me, the sales climate is more difficult. It's been for a long time, and a lot of people have not had the opportunity to work when times are difficult, as you have and as I have. So they need that bit of kindness. They need that bit of support. They need advice. They need the coaching and there. But unfortunately, I think in technology specifically, often the manager there, he feels to drive the number. But at the end of the day, it's your people that actually get the number for you. Your job is to build a business, but you've got to hire, coach, develop, motivate, lead your people. And if you do that one well, it will pay itself back. And people talk about customer satisfaction, and I agree with Richard Branson. Is if you look at your staff satisfaction, is your staff will look after your customers. So
let me just expand a little. Yes, let me just expand a little bit. So you've put it quite eloquently there, but however, what is an act of kindness and support in the context of a leader in a tech company? How can they show that?
Okay. The way I see this, and having worked in and sold and led in 4 recessions, is you need to be aware of how people are feeling. Not every sales guy it blows it every quarter, and you need to be aware when people are down, and that's when they really need that arm around them. Yeah, I think most salespeople react well to encouragement and the fact that you're really interested in them. I think very few react to that being driven all the time thing. So the act of kindness, particularly now, is important. And I said I've had acts of kindness, and can you give me a great example of possibly the best leadership that happened to me? There was a guy called Simon Kaplan at EMC. I just had my first fantastic year at EMC, and I got massive. They took all the accounts off me because I was a new business guy, and I got a $7 million quota, which is the same as everybody else. And Simon Kaplan used to come for the forecast meetings. And one day he phoned me up and he says, can you come down to Chertsey tomorrow? I thought, I was behind quota and everything.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I'm coming here to get fired or, get a rollicking or whatever, haul over the coals. But what happened, Simon Kaplan, brilliant leader, he said, Sean, where will you finish this year? And I said, well, Simon, based on, it's all new business. I have to go out and all the accounts were taken off me because that's the way you operate there. And I've still got the same quota as a person looking after an account. Is if I finish at 60% of quota year, I believe I've done well. And he asked me a great question. He says, do you think we stitch you up? I said, well, it don't really matter what I think. What do you think? He says, we did. We got your quota completely wrong. Next year, we'll make it up for you. I can't do it in mid-year. I'll do it. And I went out of coming down to Chertsey, it's about a 4-hour drive to Chertsey from the north of England. I went down in trepidation. I went out feeling 10 foot tall. So he didn't have to do that. So he was running the country, but he took time out to be aware of me, how I was feeling, give me that support, and say,
so it's that.
Good job.
So it's that giving you that attention and recognizing and being upfront and saying, I see what's happened to you, and just acknowledging that it has happened really lifted you up. That was a real act of kindness on his part.
And he said, we like what you're doing, keep it going. And he said, we won't make it up to you next year. We'll give you a small quota so you make a load of money. Yeah.
So how does a leader develop that type of empathy? That's a interest, because that's all very well saying this is what a leader should think about doing, and that was a great example, by the way. But how do you follow that example? How does a leader get there?
I like if I was to recruit another team, what's always impressed me is the people that's from a forces background. I found they're very good at execution. They clarify and then execute, but they look after their own as well. And Simon Kaplan was ex-forces, he was an ex-pilot, and I think the camaraderie, the esprit de corps, and all those sort of things have been developed when he was in forces. And I've seen forces people very good at executing, but they're also, when they take on a leadership role, they tend to be aware that they succeed through their people.
Okay.
And I think Simon got it from his forces training.
Now, so that's interesting. So not everybody gets the ability to go through and get training through some of the armed forces. And yes, I do agree with you. When we see leaders coming out of the armed forces, they tend to be very successful because they're very organized and they're very tuned into what their people are doing and not doing. Many of the leaders in today's technology are emerging from not leadership backgrounds, not leadership training. Is there anything you could say to them that they could think about learning as a topic when it comes to acts of kindness? Because one of the things that many of our audience today listening to this won't have come from the forces. They will be leaders who have come from university through an internship in a place like Microsoft or Google or Amazon, and through their performance or through the programs within the organization may have landed in the leadership role without necessarily having the leadership training. What can a person like that do?
Well, I was, again, something I got from my first boss, Ray Newall. It was a voracious appetite for learning. So learning about sales, learning about leadership. So I think you can get a lot from YouTube's a university in its own right now. You can get so much out there. But books, listening to the MP4s, MP3s, and all those. There's lots of stuff out there. But so that's you have a responsibility to develop yourself as well. But I think organizations also have a responsibility to develop their people. So a sales leader, if he's got 3 or 4 managers working for him, it's his responsibility to develop the people side of those 4 managers, not just to drive the number. We've got the forecast. What's our commit for this month, boys and girls, type thing. Let's look at the deals and do the drill downs and things like that. No, learn from your Simon Kaplans that were able to get the human side of enterprise
Mm.
and bring it into people. Yeah.
So part of it
Also,
is so you
well,
part of it is mainly maybe find a mentor who's already an experienced leader to help you sort of build some of these traits that you need.
and yeah, I think that's one thing. But I think also uh, you have the courage of your own convictions as well.
Mm.
It's I think very difficult. I've seen some quite autocratic organisations where it's all about driving the number, and
Right.
EMC was incredibly driven, all about the number. Apart from great people like Simon Catlin, Simon Penning, Steve Cowie, people that work for you think they were real people. They were able to drive the number, and they were fantastic with people as well. So the two for me are not mutually exclusive. What I'm
Mm.
seeing and talking to people is at the moment there is a lot of emphasis on driving the number. It's the number that
Yeah.
counts. Yeah.
Awesome.
Where and people will suffer. I feel burnout are going to impact a lot of people. Yeah,
Mm.
particular ones that's not had the the good fortune. Look, that sounds a bit misnomer of working in through recessions. Like you've worked through a few. At Horizon, the stuff
Mm.
that your management did there to keep you on board was fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
saw the people part of it, and also the company, but the two linked in there. And
Yeah.
get good. If you want to succeed as a sales leader, recruit good people, look after them, guide them, and get out the way. Yeah?
Yeah.
The trouble is, a lot of sales leaders get in the way, and it's micromanagement, and the people don't develop. And on sales calls, for instance, I had a sale when I inherited 3 sales managers. My last company in corporate land, and I observed him going out with people, and he took the selling over. So what happened?
Mm.
It disenfranchised the salesperson who was out to coach straight away.
Right.
So you've got to be like, So as I said, recruit well, develop well, motivate well, guide them, and then get out of the way. So
So
it's you've got the command and control aspect in military, but you also got the commander's intent. I say,
right.
this is what we need to achieve, and then you get out of the way and let people do. Patton said, George Patton is tell people what to do, but don't tell them how to do it, and what they'll delight you with their ingenuity and commitment.
Okay. So let me just switch that a little minute. So it sounds like, if we put some focus in work, how does it manifest itself outside of work in terms of personal and community? What can it do for a person if we are able to focus in on our people, provide them acts of kindness and, empathy? How does it manifest itself outside of work?
We've got opportunities every day, I believe. Just walk into the gym and back, you'll see people going to work and their heads down. They're not looking forward to it, and they're human beings.
Mm.
So make them feel good. I did some voluntary work in a hospital, and you'd see the people there, not just the patients and the visitors there. We saw the people working there, the people who do the difficult job, the
Mm.
carers, the people who are cleaning the wards all day, and they do a fantastic job, but they get no recognition. So I felt it always incumbent on me when I was doing my
Yeah.
voluntary work was to look at the people, say hello to them, yeah, smile, and make
So
people
what you
feel
s-
good.
so what you're saying is that because you had a positive experience in work, you took that out and sort of paid it forward into the community and into your family because you were able to see other people's situations and empathize with them and pay it forward as the topic goes.
Absolutely, Mickey, it is, and it's visible when people are not feeling well. Yeah, it's visible, and I think you asked a great question on one of your articles the other day about about burnout. It was, and I think one of the contribution was go and talk to your manager about it. But my point to that was, it's if your manager is not aware
Mhm.
of you and you up or down, is not or she's not very good as a manager. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
and
sometimes, I think that's an interesting point because, sometimes not the managers, our leaders, you know, don't have the skills training to recognize when somebody's going through a downtime in their life or they're not showing up, fully engaged. And I think the, you know, if you can, and it's always difficult, call it out for yourself and let people know, because sometimes it's not even that they're not trained. Personalities just don't allow them to see it because they're so engrossed in their own self.
I think it's a great, and as you're saying that, it's at the last company, if they said, what was your finest hour? Yeah.
Mm,
And it was probably last year there, we ended up something that probably did 75% of our number. You think, well, that's a disaster. And I'll
mm,
tell you, I had one guy spent a lot of time off. His dad got brain cancer.
mhm,
Yeah. Yeah. One had developed cancer of his nose. Yeah. One went through a marital problem, so he was off. Another guy of mine, his wife's got Crohn's disease, so he's taking time off. So I kept the team on the park. I'm
mm,
proud of that. But it was by aware that got problems,
mm.
yeah, and I helped them. Did we make the number? No, we didn't. But I think I would say you said we kept the team on the park. Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
I'm proud. I'm proud of that.
so that sort of segues into maintaining positive relationship and doing good for others. Let's talk about that. So it sounds like, certainly when your team members were not performing, it could have been very easy to go, they're not contributing to my quota. I need to get rid of them and I should replace them because I'm, as a leader, not going to make my money and my quota. But what you did is maintain a relationship, and it sounds like a very positive relationship with them. And I'm guessing when they got over their adversities, they came back and you blew the numbers, because they felt loyal to the business and to yourself.
Exactly the loyalty. The loyalty has got to be earned, and it's two-way. Loyal to you, but loyal to them. It's a two-way street. And yeah, there's people that's worked for me that I'm still friends with now. You know that were on the team, are happy to be on the team. Different people, and I look at a number of them has said that the guy going through a really bad divorce, and obviously the times that he couldn't come in, and he was. It was the culture of the company was they want to see people in the office 2 days a week. For me, and
Mm.
that was crazy.
Yeah.
He lived over in Cheshire. The local office was in Wakefield, 2 hours away,
Yeah.
where his account was Barclays. And every time he went in Barclays, he got business. So why wouldn't he go to Barclays? I was happy with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
So
what's interesting is, you gave your team time to breathe through times of adversity. I remember in 2017 here in Northern California, we had some horrendous fires where whole communities got burnt out. And our home was one of the ones that got burnt out. What was interesting was, um, I was struggling to breathe, being as an analogy, with all the thing that was going on. And my boss called me up. He says, "When you coming back to work?" And I went, "Oh God!" And he says, "Well, if you don't come back by a certain date, I've got to make provisions to replace you." And he sort of forced my hand to go into work when there was a lot of, you know, grieving going on and a lot of turmoil going on for me. And he didn't empathize with me. He needed me back on the numbers. And I appreciate what you said, because that empathy, if I'd got that then, I maybe have been more loyal to my boss at that time. I'm not
yeah,
going to name him. I'm not going to say which company it was. I haven't worked for many
you mean
companies.
shame him?
No, but it's, if he does listen to this, I think it's a good thing for all leaders to be aware, because I am an overachiever, and all of a sudden I'm out of action for personal reasons. And guess what? I came back and blew the numbers again, but I I held a little bit of I
Mm-hmm.
lost a little bit of respect for my boss through that period.
I can
And
imagine.
he lost my loyalty quite a lot, and it can be, he could have had maintained a positive relationship which had nothing to do with his self gain. And that was the
I,
thing I learned from that.
I think adding to that, I think
Mhm.
one of the things that a sales leader has to do sometimes is to protect his people from the organisation. Because
Mm.
sales guys can, you know, very orientated towards achievement, and sometimes they can push somebody's nose out of joint. So part of your job sometimes is pouring oil on the water and protecting the people. So you get a phone
Mm.
call that your sales guy was doing really well because he wanted a deal in for the company. He's upset
Mm.
somebody. So being a bit of a diplomat, sorry, and protecting people from the company. Sometimes you have to do that and be true to yourself as well. And
Mm.
Uh, there was there was one occasion with one company I was working for. We
Mhm.
had two people doing the same job, effectively doing the one job but doing different aspects with. They got a combined number, and I got a phone call from my boss. He says, "I want you to get rid of this person." Yeah, and I said, "You
Right.
can't do that. You can't do that." I said, "No." I said, "We've got to, there's two people doing it. We have to do a proper process." And he
Yeah.
said, "No, I want you to get rid of this person." I said, "I'm not. I refuse to do so." Yeah.
Right.
And what I did, I went to HR to say,
Mm.
so to make sure they couldn't. We had to give him a fair fight.
Fair.
That,
Yeah.
the best thing I could do. In the end, it got made redundant, but I kept, the guy respected what I did. He said, "My job is to make sure
Mm.
you get a fair fight." It didn't do me any good in that organisation. They had a reorg, and I was reorg out. But I always look back. I did the right thing.
Yeah.
I
So that's
constantly
interesting.
do
So we talked a lot
integrity.
about when things we talked a lot about when things are going bad, but what about when things are going really good for us? There can be a tendency to forget things going on that are negative around us. So, when things are going great for us, we tend to forget about the bad things. How do we stay in touch with that, and what does contribution look like when we're doing really, really well?
Uh, I think when we're doing really, really well, let's just say it's in our career, often it's at the cost of possibly the family, your health or something like that, because it's very time consuming, and we tend to be driven. So what we do is we think nothing of getting up early, seeing customers miles away, getting back, getting home late, and getting out again. And
Mm.
when I look back, when I was possibly really in the flow and flying, uh, is yeah, it was long days, early starts, late finishes, and whether I could have spent more time with the family looking back, I wouldn't have been as successful. But I think the success came at a cost. It
Yeah.
cost them.
It comes down to, where are we able to put our attention? I was on another podcast yesterday, and the opening line, this lady said, she says, "I am more successful than many celebrities because I have a great relationship with my children."
Yeah,
And it was quite profound, that. And she'd gone through some sacrifices, and you either sacrifice. I don't know whether you have to sacrifice work, but it comes down to you're sacrificing where you put your attention, because
yeah.
we're human beings at the end of the day, and it's not about am I at work or am I at home. It's where do we put our attention, and how do we share that, I think. So that's a really, really interesting, scenario you
It's,
painted there.
you make a great point, because the guy at Veritas I'm talking to today, he's got to a position now where he thinks, "What do I do now the rest of my career?" Uh, he's earned a lot of money, been very, very successful, but it's took a lot of time. And at the weekend, he asked he floated his idea. He's thinking about having a career change, and
Mm.
he said to one of his children, "Is have I been bad tempered to you?" And Sonia said, "Yes, you have." So with all the success that might be said, you've done a lot of business, you've done a lot of commission, you've blown your numbers. It's
Mm.
come at a cost as well to
Yeah, and
family.
that's how we turn up. How do we turn up in our work and our social lives as a result of that? How do we present ourselves? Are we happy? Are we angry to people? Are we, how we present ourselves is what happens, and then that leaves everlasting memories to those people that we love, and they don't easily go away, those memories.
Well, and when we started this discussion, we spoke about a leader is not only a leading his own team, is also a leader in the wider sphere as well. And you a leader can actually change the morale of an organization just by saying hello to people,
Mm,
walking through the office and making them feel good. Yeah,
yeah,
and that's your job. If you go down, head down, people think, "Oh, what's happening?" Yeah, things are struggling. So even if things are going badly, and
yeah.
well, things are not going great for a lot of companies in the tech field at the moment, your job as a leader is to make it look that everything's under control, because suddenly you can make it change. Morale can change things.
Yeah. So, I mean, as human beings, we're community creatures by nature.
Yeah,
So that's leading in towards, the spirit of being a community person, engage with the community, keep the community together. That's how we survive in strength. So that's an interesting point you make there. Let me just ask you something here, which is sort of, I want to sort of start to think about coming to the end of the topic here, but are there any unwritten rules for life that we can pay attention to?
Success is strategy and integrity. If you haven't got the second, don't bother about the first. Often we focus on what's the strategy to win this, but
Mm,
you've got to have integrity as well for the with the customer, with your people, with your organisation. And what's
mm,
integrity? Integrity is doing the right thing for the
yeah.
right reasons. Yeah.
I'd
So
I'd actually I'm very spiritual, and I go and research a lot of the past spiritual mystics that have come and gone, like Jesus Christ, Tao, Buddhism, and I can't remember which one it was. One thing I read, which was really interesting, is the biggest what's the word? There's this thing called karma, which is, I
yeah,
guess, um I don't want to call it a crime. Maybe it's a crime against karma is a deed against a human. But it said the worst karma you can commit against any individual is to hurt their feelings.
yeah,
And I thought that's amazing. And when I learned that, and it's taken some practice, I've always stepped back and thought, is what I'm about to say or send in an email going to hurt somebody's feelings? Because if it does, it's just going to snowball on the other side, and it's going to be hard to recover. And sometimes we just don't know we've done it. So that's certainly my thought on that.
yeah, absolutely right. And as I say, an email issued or a
Mhm.
word said, you can't take it back. Yeah.
Yeah,
You can't
exactly.
strike it from the record. You said the damage is done. It's like you crumple the paper up, and that's it's
Yeah,
crumpled forever, isn't it?
there you go. There you go. And I think about hurting somebody's feelings. Sometimes we see customers as objects and not as people. And I now I mean, it's been a few years since I, learned this, and I've been using it. When I speak to a customer and I sense a bit of aggravation from the customer or tension from the customer, I start to think, have I hurt their feelings?
Hmm.
And it's amazing when you start thinking like that, and you stop thinking about the sell, and you start thinking about, well, what have I done wrong? You can quickly then home in and change that a little bit for the customer and make them feel comfortable again, and not because they're a customer, because they're a human being, and I think
I,
that's important.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think in difficult times like this, is that authenticity
Mm.
and the feeling for people is a great way to differentiate yourself from your competition.
Yeah. There's
You
something
have,
else that I thought was interesting. I had a podcast show with Dr. Mark Snookus, and he said something. We were talking about strategy in your everyday life, and I think it might be relevant to this. How do you use strategy to um, do things in everyday life to be successful? And normally we think about strategy in business, but he did say something which was really interesting, and he said, uh, say something like this. It said, strategy is the response we create when we come across challenges that stop us achieving our ambitions. And I
mhm.
thought that is really, really cool. And I thought you can do that in anything. Like, if you New Year's Day resolution to lose weight, and I'm always doing this every year. And after the holidays are over, so I commit myself. After the holidays are over, I get back to work, and all of a sudden, work gets in the way of me losing weight. My kids get in the way, or my home life, or whatever it may be. All of a sudden these challenges face, and I thought, oh, how about I implement a strategy, instead of just trying to overcome it. And I think that's another thing we can think about is how can we use strategy to overcome obstacles and challenges, and achieve our ambitions. And our ambitions don't just need to be money. They can be just having a successful relationship, with
Yeah,
somebody, whether it be a customer or your family.
yeah. And as you were saying that, I was talking to somebody about cold calling, and they've got the dread of the phone,
Mm,
and I think you need to say, well, what is success? You can't just measure success about the number of meetings you got. If you've had a positive outcome with that person, you spoken to them, you communicated, and yeah, you've actually developed part of a relationship with them. That's a successful outcome. So defining what success is is important. And often it's this, I played a lot of cricket in my career, and what I found was sometimes the scoreboard is not the best arbiter of whether somebody's doing well.
Mm.
Yeah. And, things can change and you have to adapt your strategy because even though the scoreboard says you're doing well, times have changed. And it's the same in selling. Sometimes the scoreboard is not the best arbiter, and just judging someone by numbers, they
Mm.
could do all the things right. Like Simon Kaplan was happy with me, Sean, you're doing everything right and keep on doing it. But the scoreboard says I was a majestic failure.
Yeah. Totally agree with you. Because there are, like you got given the bad quota. It doesn't mean you weren't doing your job because you didn't meet your quota. You'd been stitched up,
Mhm.
and that was, an act of kindness for your boss to actually recognize that. So you're absolutely right. The scoreboard doesn't show whether you're doing good or bad. Right or wrong's a bit subjective, really, isn't it? So
Yeah.
it's always I always think right or wrong is an opinion. It's not fact. Sometimes,
But yeah, and you're right about strategy. You need it there. And again, uh, there was I look at this guy and I really respected what he did. It was
Mm.
it was related to the E of EMC, Egan, yeah, and he could have got a nice district in Wall Street or something, but he didn't. He wanted to prove himself. And he came in and he said, "I'm going to actually make Vodafone." We did no business,
Right.
and he did, and he had a
Mm.
strategy. He planned it. He got all the organisation charts and everything, and he blew the number for
There
Vodafone
you
because
go.
he did it right. So
That was his
he
ambition.
had a
Yeah.
challenge to do because there was no business coming, but he was going to achieve something, and he did it. He got his strategy there. He did the analysis, and he
Yeah.
got his strategy, got his plan, and he executed. And
That's
fair play to him. I saw the difference between nothing and success is
yeah.
strategy, planning,
Yeah.
execution.
There you go. There you go. Hey, coming towards the end of the episode, I want to switch gears a little bit and focus back on you. What is one idea that experts in your field say that you disagree with?
Okay, well, I think salespeople currently that are failing, it's basic for me. It's not down to them. It's down for a number of reasons. I think they don't get coaching. You know? I think also a lot of the sales techniques that they trained in no longer work. Buying's different to what it was 20 years ago. And I did a course on objection handling the other day to a company in America. And the old days of having, if somebody got 50 objections, you got 50 almost overcoming in a combative way, which it was, the field found things and the like. It doesn't work that way. You can win the argument, overcome the objection, you lost the war.
Mhm.
Is
Okay.
you've got to, which techniques are past the sell by date, and the manager's job is to be a coach. If he coaches people well and mentors them well, he's going to be successful. His team's going to be successful, and I think there's a lot of old, tired techniques out there. Yeah.
Okay.
Salespeople need to know what to do, how to do it, and why. The more intelligent they are, and tech sales guys tend to have a good lot of intelligence there. They need to understand why it works.
Okay. Cool. Right. I'm going to ask you some simple questions. One person, one favorite person that you follow in your field.
It's a guy, an Australian guy called Tony J. Hughes. Uh,
Okay.
he wrote a book called The Joshua Principle. I love what he does. He's brilliant.
Okay. Next question. Rapid fire. What is the favorite part of your job?
Been out meeting people.
Oh, awesome. 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 Um, what is your favorite book or book of all time? Books of all time.
I would have to say the one that comes to mind is How to Win Friends and Influence People. I read it every year. Dale
Oh, okay.
Carnegie. It made a massive difference in my life and my career.
Awesome. We'll put the book list down in the links below. What's your favorite movie or show?
I like Casablanca for a number of reasons. It's when Casablanca comes on, it's Christmas, which is
Right.
nice. And I look at that, Humphrey Bogart, Paul Reno, and Ingrid Bergman, three great actors, actresses, and what a plot. And every year when I watch it, is that plane that's escaping to Portugal on, the Germans are going to get there early enough one day to stop it going on. So it
Awesome.
stood the test of time. I love Casablanca.
Awesome. What's your favorite meal?
Uh, Steak and chips.
Okay. What's your favorite song?
My favourite song is "Suspicious Mind" by Elvis Presley. Story behind this: I didn't. My sister, God rest her soul, who died a number of years ago. She loved Elvis Presley. Me growing up, I didn't think it was any good, but I realised now how good Presley was. He was.
He had a great voice. He had a great voice. There's no doubt about it. I didn't like all his songs. I loved his voice. It was amazing.
And I think in "Suspicious Minds," you see the sort of bass and everything there. What a class act!
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Where can people go to learn more about you? Just want to sort of wrap up a few things here to end the show. So where can they go to learn more about you? What are the places they can learn from you?
The best place is connect with me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I post my views on LinkedIn. You know, I've got a nice, decent following there. By being a bit different and radical, the topic is you need modern technique, but also needs coaching. Yeah,
Okay.
you need to look after your people. So that sort of message is getting resonant. So please find me on LinkedIn. I tend to accept connection requests.
Okay.
As well.
And we can put your LinkedIn details below. Do you have your own website as well?
No.
Okay.
It's under construction. So.
Okay, cool. No worries. What can people expect from you next?
It's a good question. And this part of my career I've been doing now 10 years is whether I want to focus. I was taught well how to sell. I went to lots of courses at the companies there. But one thing that I'm going to focus more on in negotiation is sales guys don't get taught how to negotiate. Yeah, and what happens is you're a great selling job, and then often they go into procurement and some guy that's trained there and he takes all the margin out of the deal, all the value out of the deal.
Got it.
I'm a massive fan of negotiation, and I wish I'd have learned how to negotiate early in my career.
Okay. Is there anything that we haven't covered in this show you'd like to say before we close off?
Yes. I'd like to apologise for being frosty to you the first time I met you.
I consider it a learning opportunity. And here I am.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And finally, how can listeners support your work?
If the SIG companies that need training, smaller companies, I tend to operate in the SME type environment that you think could benefit from professional selling techniques and coaching and negotiation skills, please recommend me. Last week I did 2 great days with an American company that I've been looking after 10 years.
There you go. Okay. We'll make sure that we'll put a little bit of a bio of the work you do in the comments section and the YouTube listing. What was your favorite part of this episode?
It was the evoking a lot of the good memories of the good people in my career. As you come back, as you were talking, I was talking. The Ray Newall, the Simon Catlins, the Steve Coweys of this world that could be creative about an opportunity. The Simon Pennicks that I work for. Simon could inspire people to run through walls. Yeah, I was remembering those people now, how good they were. They were really
awesome.
good, and
I'm glad.
And they were great with people as well.
That's really, really cool. Well, I've got to say, we've come to the end of the show today, and I'd like to thank you to our guest, Sean. It's been a true pleasure to have you on the show. I hope you all enjoyed the show today. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the reminders. Say bye-bye, Sean, before we go.
Thanks, Mickey. I've enjoyed it. And again, I've enjoyed knowing you for 20 odd years.
Oh my God. All right. Well, please don't forget to hit subscribe and hit reminders of the Hidden Heroes of Tech on YouTube for the full video episode. And also you can get the full audio episode of this on the major podcast platforms on Apple, Spotify, etc. I look forward to seeing all of you next time on my next episode. And for now, it's goodbye from me and goodbye